But no, that definitely works for me. My whole thing is just keeping the action interesting, and I mean, of course, man, we're not crazy acrobatics. You're not going to get Scott Adkins flippy spin kicks, but I look at the action more of this isn't a martial arts film to me. You know, I'm not. I mean, I'm a martial artist, but the way that I'm creating my character, he he's not Blackfist, and I have to separate myself from that. He's not a kung fu dude. You know, the two styles that I'm really there's like three styles I'm incorporating for his character is Muay Thai kickboxing, of course, is Wing Chun, and traditional boxing. Now that takes away my karate, that takes away my kung fu, that takes away a lot of different stuff, my ninjutsu stuff I would put into it. But that simplifies it so I can stay in the character, you know, with the guy, because I don't see him as like yeah, obviously he's a martial artist and whatnot, but he's also an alcoholic.
I feel you. Just to do a quick intro. So this is the very first episode of the Impossible Colors podcast. I'm Jaron Ikner. I'm with Ashe Bridges. It's my partner in crime in these films that we're making. We're going to be doing this podcast probably once a week, just talking about the movie and who we are as people. And yeah, that's kind of what we are. So, you know, if you guys don't know who I am, I'm Jaron Ikner, multimedia artist. I specialize in everything media related. Videos, rap songs. You probably have seen it. It's probably why you're clicking on this. But I'm here with Ashe Bridges. I'm letting him kind of explain himself a little bit, talk about who he is, what he does, and, you know, what we're trying to do.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you, Jay, for allowing me to do this podcast with you. We talked about this years ago, so it's nice to finally get it done. And like I said in my little Instagram video earlier, it's nice that we actually have something to talk about.
I agree. This is a long time coming for sure.
It really is. I'm an actor. I'm a stand-up comedian. I'm a lyricist. I'm a martial artist. I'm a choreographer. I'm a filmmaker. So, you know, me and this guy, we have a lot in common, but we have vastly different styles, but I really like that contrast. And it's exciting to get to come together to do something good. You've probably seen me ranting on Facebook. I'm the host of the goddamn Ashe Bridges show. I do my own podcast every once in a while. I do stand-up locally. So, you know, we're just here to have a good time, as always.
Yeah, you be going off on Facebook, and I'll post a link for everybody who's listening to this podcast. But if you want to hear some good black man rants, check out the Ashe Bridges show. You be going off.
The shit gets a little livid sometimes.
So what are your biggest influences when it comes to because you're a martial artist, obviously, and you do stunts and stuff like that, and you're basically handling all the fight scenes and the choreography and all that for this film. And so a lot of people probably want to know, what are your influences? Like, what are you trying to bring to this film?
I study everybody that's good. So, but not just martial art actors, fighters. I study real fighters, you know. I study Pacquiao, Mayweather. I study UFC fighters, Ali, Tyson. Of course, you know, I look up to Jet Li, the legends, Bruce Lee, Donnie Yen, Jackie. Jackie's a huge inspiration for me choreography-wise. I think that everything that I've really learned about choreography, I've learned from Jackie. And I'm not as crazy as Jackie, so my thing is trying to keep it safer and not, you know, go as hard as him, because he has a great stunt team and they got a lot of money to do what they do safely. But the art of action and how it's filmed, a lot of what I learned from him. And the biggest thing is really, I grew up loving these movies. You know, when I was 5 years old, I saw Bloodsport and I lost my mind. You know, when you're a kid, you're like, what do I want to be? I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a doctor. First time I saw Bloodsport, I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do. And then, of course, after I saw Rumble in the Bronx again, and later on in life, I lost my mind. I grew up on Bruce. I mean, we all grew up on The Last Dragon. So, you know, to me, martial arts and martial art film, as I grew older, I loved martial art film more than I loved martial arts or being a martial artist, you know. And the biggest thing is that this is a legacy. This is martial arts films have been around since probably first martial art film came out in 1939.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. The first Wuxia film came out in 1939. I think the lead was even female. I got to research that a little bit. But there's so many people that have come along the way that have put little something down when it comes to this action thing. But for me, the biggest thing is Where are our black action stars? Where are our black martial art action stars? We got Michael Jai White. He's getting older. And who is keeping that legacy alive? I grew up on Cream Care Lexus, the Black Dragon from the 1970s. Check that dude out. That dude was a pioneer for us. Jim Kelly, Black Belt Jones. That's the legacy. I mean, martial arts has always been something that has been kind of like an Asian-dominated thing. But my philosophy was like this. Where did the first fist fight happen? In the existence of people, where did the first fist fight happen? In Africa. So that's where martial arts comes from. And so deep down inside, I want to bring it back to that, because when you look at it, look, man, Chinese people, they're built different and their style is different. And come on, Hong Kong cinema, you can't beat it. But Black people, we're natural athletes and we put flavor and style into everything we do. And I just really want to bring that to action cinema.
It's funny that you bring up the Michael Jai White thing, because he really is like the only Black action star. It's funny when you think about, like,
and it's sad.
You see the memes where people are like, "Oh, who should play this in this role?" And it's always Michael Jai White. And for me, like, that was the reason why I wanted to make this film, because this is not really my lane. I'm more like a sci-fi kind of drama type of dude.
Yeah.
But for me, like, you bring up a very good point where we just don't have Black action stars out here who are, setting or trailblazing the path for guys like you.
Well, the big thing to me is like, here's another thing, man. The white guy in the movie always gets to be the cool dude, The Black guy is a sidekick. Like, when I think about Rush Hour, right? Jackie Chan couldn't just be the lead. They wouldn't give him his whole movie. He had to be, and Chris Tucker couldn't just be cool. They had to both be fuck-ups. So both of those dudes couldn't be one Bruce Willis. And to me, that's disrespectful. By the time Jackie Chan made Rush Hour, he had made over 50 films, Doc.
That's true.
He earned the right to get his own movie.
I actually never thought about it that way, where it's like both of them kind of had to, like, dumb down themselves a little bit for that film.
Exactly.
They couldn't be their full potential. Like, Chris Tucker was almost a caricature of himself. And Jackie Chan was too.
Right.
It's kind of wild that I didn't think about it that way.
Now, it's not like we don't have Black actors that are sexy as hell and don't look cool. We have Idris Elba and we got Will Smith and all that. But deep down inside, Will Smith, he can't fight to me. I've never seen that dude throw a kick or anything. Like, he doesn't got hands to me. I've never seen... Well, Idris kind of got down in that Jason Statham Rock movie a little bit. But a lot of that was special effects.
Right.
Seeing a Black man put it in like you see the guys did on The Raid, that's human work. That's labor. When you see a Jackie Chan film, that's all of them. There's no CGI there. That's what I want to see us do, that performance where it's like, yeah, we're just as tough as these guys,
Yeah, and the thing about it, too, is that, like, especially right now with the whole, coronavirus and all that, there's a good time for us to strike with all this, because people need content.
Yeah. And
like I said, there's not a lot of Black action stars. Right now, I say Michael B. Jordan is probably like the most sought after Black action star, but you're right. He's like, he's more like a pretty boy. No offense, Michael B. Jordan, if you happen to be listening to this, because I know you could probably kick my ass if it came down to it. But, at the end of the day, like, he's not casted in overly large action films unless he's typecast like in Black Panther.
Right.
And I think that's something that we really need right now, is just we need more Black faces, like, kicking ass, basically. Because right now, it literally is just like Michael Jai White. He's not really doing that much right now.
No, like, he has a new movie on that he made with his wife and Gary Owens that I still haven't checked out yet. I was going to do a review of it. He remade a Van Damme movie from the 90s, Welcome to Sudden Death. But it's kind of like a low-budget, kind of funny spin-off of that, But either way, I heard the action is amazing, and I'm going to watch it just to study that. But my thing is, I felt it's so disrespectful what happened to that man's career. Because in my opinion, Michael Jai White is the most physically fit, capable American martial artist next to Scott Adkins. And Scott Adkins is British. So he's the most physically fit. Physically, this dude could have been in any Arnold Schwarzenegger role.
True.
You know what I'm saying? Any rock movie he could have been. So the fact that Spawn didn't perform well, he stopped getting those calls.
Yeah, I think that was, I mentioned Spawn because Spawn really was like his turning point. That was his chance to really kind of become this big A-list star in the movie itself. I love that movie, but it just didn't land very well on audiences.
The problem with it is that, and what happens with a lot of films, it's not even the actor's fault. It was a post-production issue. They blew the budget too fast, and they didn't have the money to get the special effects just right. And they went from an R rating to a property that should have been properly rated R to a PG-13 rating because they wanted to get butts and seats, and it just didn't hit right. Because you had studio interference. The producers tried to make a kids film out of something dark as shit. You can't make The Crow PG-13.
I mean, I would love to see a Spawn remake now, especially after the wave of superhero movies.
Yeah.
I think now's the time for us to get a Spawn remake and have someone do it justice.
Yeah, and it's Todd McFarlane. He's been talking about it for years, how he wants to do a Spawn remake, but he wants it to be more of a horror film as opposed to the action blockbuster they made in the 90s. And I think that's a perfect choice.
Yeah.
Because if you, honestly, and the part that really pisses me off with these comic books and a lot of these stories, they've already been made. You have better templates. Just remake that. HBO Spawn. Just remake that.
Yeah.
That's the
Fantastic.
tone.
I was mention that too. HBO Spawn is really good. Yeah.
If you want that's the horror movie with just enough action, great character development, drama, sex, all that. It's all there. It's a full package. And it's made for a mature audience. That's what the property was.
I mean, honestly, if they were to do Spawn, it would have to be something like an HBO series or a Netflix series.
Yeah.
I don't think a movie would do it justice, which I think is part of it too, why the movie didn't do it very well, because you're trying to cram this massive story that could be spread out as a trilogy, honestly, into one movie.
That's, one of my favorite shows right now. I got two shows that I'm watching religiously. Lovecraft Country.
Yeah.
It's great. That's definitely my vein. I would love to see us do something more like that, in the future. But The Boys.
Yes.
The Boys is my shit. And I'm a fan of the comic, so I read the comic before I saw the show. And seeing the creative choices they made from the comic, because honestly, the comic isn't filmable. Even by streaming standards, like it would. It's fucked up. It's a fucked up.
Yeah,
comic.
I didn't read the comics, but I read like synopsises in the comics and how much they deviated from the show, or from the comics to the show. And yeah, man, there's a lot of big changes that they made, and it makes sense. You have to make it marketable and watchable.
But I think it's brilliant because they still stay true to the characters. They stay true pretty much to the tone of the story, and it's actually a very acceptable deviation from the original property. A lot of people's like, oh, the book is better. This is a situation where I feel like the show, they're both great in their own way, and it's just like I was saying with the Joker. If you watch it for the sense of like, okay, this is the show of this, and it has to be a certain way, as opposed to like, oh, it has to be like the book, you're going to be highly pleased. And I think it's very disappointing when you have a great property like Star Wars, okay? You got all this fan fiction. You got all this past lore from all these other writers, right? You got movies, even the best, even the movies that weren't good comparatively now, not that bad.
Right.
That George Lucas trilogy ain't that bad anymore, is it? No, it's not. So when I look at these, it's really about these companies collecting IPs, and they don't care about the actual story. They don't care about the fan base, and that's what's so great about, like you're saying now with this Corona thing and streaming. If it wasn't for how things are now, we wouldn't be getting the Smatter Cut.
It's true.
And look, Sonic the Hedgehog, his face got changed in 2 months because Sony was smart to be like, man, we're gonna lose a lot of money if we don't fix this shit. And the fact that the people that are smart, the creators that are smart, they're listening to the fans. And I think that's the most important thing to do. But when you're making an original material like we are, I just like the idea of iconic moments, scenes. It's like what you want to do with anything you create. You want to create a memory in someone's mind. You want to. It's a good feeling. Come on, we all remember the first time we saw The Predator. It was shit.
For sure.
I don't care how old that movie gets. That shit is still the shit. And to me, I'm always I'm chasing that when I think about cinema. Jackie Chan always said, always do your best on camera because you don't get a chance to reshoot it. Once the movie's done, it's done.
This is very true.
And it's permanent.
For me, like, I think about movies that I came up with, like action movies, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And going back to what we're saying about black action heroes.
Right.
And for me, like, I love cheesy 90s flicks. Like that, that's just my shit.
I'm a cheesy 80s and 70s.
Yeah. If anybody listening to this get a chance, go look at my spoof for the movie Die Hard called High Heart.
That shit was funny. And I watched that shit.
For me, that's kind of like where I want, where it's like, I want to capture that feeling of those cheesy 80s and 90s movies, but I want black people to be the face of it.
Yeah.
That's why this whole cast is all people of color. No, black director, obviously, black lead, black everything.
And, you know, I can actually agree with you. I feel the same exact way because that's where Black Fist came from. You know, I talked to you about Black Fist many years ago before I wanted to do, I had an original story of a Batman fan film, but it was from the perspective of a black dude that lived in the hood. And Batman wasn't cool. He was this white dude that was just fucking niggas up. You know, and I just loved that idea of changing that. And the story was dope, but then I'm like, man, Batman's a huge property. Warner Brothers ain't tripping. They want their money. That shit won't go anywhere. I'll get taken down. And then I saw the guy that played the Punisher with John Travolta. What's his name? Thomas Jane.
Yeah, Thomas Jane.
He made, if you saw the YouTube movie he made, Dirty Laundry, he made his own version of the Punisher because he was pissed off at how the one that was produced was performed was PG-13. They made the same mistake. No, it was rated R, but they made it too soft. And he made his own fan film, got his own crew. The guy that played the African guy in Batman vs. Superman, that Superman flew through a wall in the end of the movie, he played the bad guy in that movie. And it was brutal. It was very violent. It was very rated R, and it felt like the Punisher. And at the end of that short film, he gives his Punisher shirt to a little black boy. And I was like, yo, that'd be dope to see that little black boy grow up and be the new Punisher. But Frank Castle's older, and he's like a mentor and shit. Right? And then it hit me. I'm like, I don't own any of this shit.
You do not.
I don't own it. And it's like, I want my own black hero. I want my own original black hero. And that's where Black Fist came from. And that is my baby.
And also for me, it's just the idea that, like, as a black man in America, you want people who look like you. Yeah. And you think about, like, all the black heroes, there's not a lot.
No. We got to watch 70s movies, dude.
We had Black Panther, but
Come on, Last Dragon came out 35 years ago, Doc.
And I want to be able to my son, he's multiracial, but obviously he's part black. But at the same time, like, he loves Miles Morales. Why? Because Miles Morales looks like
him.
You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of it. I'm saying, like, I love Spider-Man. I'm one of the biggest fucking Spider-Man fans in the world. But for me, there's always been that disconnect between myself and Peter Parker. Right. It's like, I'm 100% your story, but you're white.
Doug, I love Wolverine. I'm a nigga, look at the face.
Right.
Of course, I'm a Wolverine fan. But how can I relate to a 200-year-old white dude?
Because things would go a little bit differently for a black Wolverine, right?
If Wolverine was black and 200 years old, that nigga be madder than the Wolverine we got now, bro.
Civil rights movement.
Bro, all that, dog.
Civil War.
And being a mutant on top. Man, get the... Bro.
And honestly, that's a more compelling story.
I would love to watch that.
But I'm not trying to be all corny saying, we should just make all our superheroes black. I'd just rather make new superheroes.
Exactly.
Which is what we need anyways, right? Because we're always We're on our 20th Batman reboot. Like, how many Batmans do we need?
And that was the whole thing too. There's a black Batman. His name is Batwing. You know what I'm saying? He lives in he does a Batman Incorporated. There's an Asian, there's a Japanese Batman. He's Batman in Japan, and it was a really brilliant storyline. There's a female Batman, and everybody gets to be the Bat. You know, they all get a little part of that legacy. But it's like, okay, yeah, but it's still the old rich white dude. You know, and it's like everything always has to come from a white benefactor. When do we get to be James Bond? When do we get to be the cool guy? When do we get to be the dude that whoops all the ass and gets the pretty girl and drives off in the sunset and that nigga don't die?
Well, it's funny because you brought up Lovecraft Country, and
they're finally doing that.
One of my favorite things about that show is the lead, Jonathan Majors.
He's killing it.
He's fantastic. I think he's a great actor. I think he's the future of. But what's funny is that rumor has it that he got casted as Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man 3.
Yeah.
But, why make him a villain? Why can't? You know what I'm saying? That's what we're kind of talking about, where it's like, even with Killmonger, you know what I'm saying, but Michael B. Jordan, even the Marvel, the MCU, all the black people in the MCU are either like super like sideline, like Falcon, War Machine, or you're a villain.
Pretty much.
Or unless you're Black Panther, he had his little shine for sure, but
he's gone now.
So we'll see what happens with that. But,
exactly, and they're gonna make it a girl. Yeah. And I've noticed, have you noticed this trend? Bill Burr actually talked about it, and I love Bill Burr, and it was great because I thought I was the only guy that thought this, and he just said it. He was like, it's like, they're giving chicks all these shitty 1980s scripts and turning those into movies.
True. Yeah.
And it's like, you will rather put a skinny ass woman in the role before you put in a strong black man. You want me to believe that Charlize Theron is going to beat up a bunch of European gangsters that weigh 200 pounds, but to see a black dude actually get it in, I had to watch the new Purge. That's what I'm talking about. That dude killed it.
Yeah.
I was afraid for that dude to hold. I'm like, Glenn, please don't kill this dude. This dude is getting down, And honestly, man, with us being victimized the way that we are nowadays, and I'm thinking about all these babies that are coming into the world. See, I'm in my 30s now. I've had time to be here. I've had time to process this kind of pain. I've had time to process this kind of tragedy. I'm lucky.
For sure. Yeah.
But blessed. But to be an 8-year-old and think about Breonna Taylor and Trayvon Martin, to be a 14-year-old boy and know about Trayvon and be 14 right now, come on, bro. That kid is a kid that needs to be empowered. He needs to feel like he is Batman. He needs to feel like he can overcome anything, because these kids need anything that's going to keep them from being crippled by that fear that we've all been crippled by as black people from our inception. Because they've used nothing but violence and torture and trickery and evil tactics to keep us in a state of fear and oppression, so we don't ever rise up and fight back. And the best way to rise up and fight back, it's not by being violent and becoming anything like them, but it's by being successful and working together. And what I always wanted to show with Black Fist was my dream of how we can be as black people, where we all work together. Our neighborhoods are safe because we're looking out for each other. We're spending our money with each other. You know what I'm saying? And we're accepting of each other despite our sexuality, whether you like the white girl or whatever. If you's black, then, hey, sit down, get a plate. And that's what we really need more than anger. We need to learn how to love each other again and to love ourselves and protect each other. And we need imagery that gives us a blueprint. Because think about it. All these white dudes with guns, didn't their daddies grow up watching John Wayne shoot a bunch of Indians?
Yeah, it gets deep.
Didn't these 30-year-old dudes that got kids now grow up when we were kids watching Arnold Schwarzenegger shoot a bunch of niggas?
It's interesting because I sit here and think about that exact thing where, us as black people in this country, we've always been portrayed as less than what we are in media, whether it's every TV show. Hell, I watched a YouTube video right before I came here about UPN, underpaid Negroes. Yeah. And the reason why that fell off was because CW basically they stole it. They gentrified it.
Bro, they took all those Negroes made that a network.
Yeah.
Homeboys in Space, the Jamie Foxx show, we made that network, and they took all that money we made and they put it into their white show.
Yep.
And the shit that pissed me the fuck off when I was a kid, I'm looking at the Jamie Foxx show. It's 1998, you know what I'm saying? I'm looking at the camera. This nigga has the same camera from the first season of Martin.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Dawson's bitch-ass Creek. This nigga has a movie camera.
Yeah, it's high def.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And it's funny because when CW was formed, basically the budget just got sucked out. And you can see all this, the quality of the shows in the later seasons just crashed because they didn't have the money for it. And that's the shit that pisses me off. But you reminded me something when you were talking about Trayvon Martin. Have you ever seen the movie Slight?
Slight, I think
it's
so.
It's about the black kid who basically built his own Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
And starts fighting crime and shit.
Yeah.
Amazing movie. And that movie actually,
he had a white brother or some shit, right?
It's his uncle or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that movie, I watched that movie, I'm like, man, that's the type of shit I want to make, because it had this feeling where I was watching this young black kid who had a purpose and a desire to, make change in his city. You know what I'm saying? He wanted to do shit.
I felt the same way when I first saw John Boyega for the first time and Attack the Block.
Oh yeah, great movie.
Great movie.
Fantastic movie.
Scary as shit.
Yeah.
Done well. Even though the monsters look crazy, the brutality was okay, this is believable.
Yeah. That's a great movie. Well, it's funny you bring him up because he's another prime example of how we got duped with the whole he's about to be a fucking Jedi thing. I mean, that was one of my. I remember when that poster came out, and they had that Negro on there with the lightsaber, and I was like, oh shit,
this is about to go down.
To be a black Jedi for the next Star Wars films.
Am I ready for this, bro? Yeah. Let me tell you how pissed off.
That's UPN getting fucking gentrified by CW right there, basically.
I have never been a Star Wars fan, bro. I went to the goddamn opening of The Last Jedi, dressed in my hakama and a black hoodie with my red Darth Maul lightsaber. I was on board. And by the time that movie was over, I gave all that shit away.
Are you talking about The Force Awakens?
No, The Force Awakens was dope.
That was the one where he like.
Yeah, when he got hit at the end, you know, he got struck in the back, but he held the lightsaber for a second, and I'm like, damn, man, a white girl saved him, okay, but like, you know, let's see what happens in the sequel. And the big thing was, I'm like, bro, Luke is coming back. Dude, I was born in 1983, so when the day I was born, I went to the library, and you look at the newspapers of what was in the theater when you were born. What was in the theater when I was born, in Maryville, at the Dollar Theater I used to go to, The Man with Two Brains with Steve Martin, and Return of the Jedi.
That's crazy that you know that.
Yeah. And I've seen both of those movies. And, you know, so I never got to live in the world where I saw Luke Skywalker on the screen. I saw it on VHS or whatever. I never got really into it because I was born too late. By the time I was born, the third movie had come out, like the bug was going.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and they didn't really have cartoons and really keep it going in the 80s. You know what I'm saying? It was Ghostbusters and shit.
Basically, Anakin's our Luke.
Yeah.
In terms of like seeing that on the big screen, we got Anakin.
We got Anakin, and you know what? Now that I'm older, I appreciate that.
I do too. Yeah,
I do.
People hated on those first three movies. That, but hindsight's kind of like, no, they did what they had to do.
Yeah, and the third movie, I didn't give a shit. That shit went hard.
Yeah, it's great.
It was great. Like it brought it all to a nice point, dude. It's like, you know, you just got to follow along. But that was the whole thing. To be able to see Luke Skywalker for the first time, I'm like, this dude's gonna get down. Finally, I get to see Luke Skywalker get down, and seeing him get down as an older man. It's also inspirational for me because I'm getting older. I like seeing my heroes get older. Mm-hmm. I like seeing Stallone be in his 60s and still shooting fools up and being yoked, even though it's all, you know, steroids. It's still,
right.
He's still working out more than I am. You know, that's impressive. Seeing Van Damme still ripped at 57. I love that. But to see all the subliminal shit they put in the movie and the agenda and the politics and then they turn our boy, our hope, our black Jedi into goddamn Stephen Fetcher.
Yeah.
Dude, when he woke up at the beginning of the movie with all them tubes in him and shit, and he was like, where's that white bitch? Where's my white bitch? And then when I saw that shit, bro, I'm like, bro, this is what we're doing. You know when you look at your watch, like, there's another hour and a half of this shit. God damn. First scene, bro.
Yeah, it was pretty disappointing because you could tell, especially when you know all the politics behind like that trilogy, like going back and forth with the writing and all that. It was like one of those situations where they almost sat down in the meeting room, and were like, so how are we going to write the Negro out of this film?
Yeah.
Because he's just too much.
And then when the Asian chick kissed him, and they never used him, like, us, like, oh, okay, so the black dude can't get the white bitch, but he can get the chubby Asian girl, and he don't even like her. What are you doing? What is this? What am I watching?
Yeah.
And then you didn't even use the Asian girl again, so you just totally shit on the Asian community. Because in the third movie, she got all of 49 seconds.
I think she had like one line in the film. Yeah.
Dude, it was terrible.
They wrote her the fuck out. It's like, nope.
But also, it goes back to the bigger thing. It's always really about the studio, and then when you're swapping out directors, man, the same shit happened with James Gunn. You know, when you have a director that has a story and a vision, you need to just let him do his job. But the studios only care about money. I miss the days, like you said, the early 90s, man, like Doom Generation, early Miramax. We had all these low-budget movies that weren't killing, you know, the budget. And they were making crazy loot.
Yep.
And that is where I really got my philosophy from. How much money can we get back on the dollar?
Yep.
You know, and if you give me $55,000 and I bring you back 4.5 million, that movie's a success. And my whole thing is, when you have a good story, compelling characters, a good plot, you don't need a lot of money. You just need heart. And that's what modern cinema is missing.
I think it definitely has become cannibalized in the grand scheme of things, where it comes down to, you know, these, I mean, I listen to a lot of these indie podcasts, like Indie Film Hustle, all these people, and they're talking about how they make, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars off of really small budgets. And the reason why they do that is because they tap into their fan base, their
base,
and they find their niche, where it's like,
well, okay,
you are the people who are going to enjoy this movie the most.
You bring me back to a good point, which is in correlation to what we've been talking about overall. I've been thinking about what's my niche that's never truly been explored. Black action comedy.
Yeah,
that's my shit.
And you don't see any of that right now.
That's why I know I'm already rich, because that's what I know I'm good at. Because, like, check it out. Michael Jai White, I mean, he can be funny. Black Dynamite was funny as shit.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies ever.
But when I see him in other things, he's kind of wooden. And he has, like, that kind of stoic, two-dimensional action guy persona. Which, to me, like, okay, now that I'm older, I don't like those movies anymore. I like movies that really explore the character. And the acting is more developed. When I was younger, I used to love the high kicks and the explosion. But dude, after you've seen all the fucking dope fight scenes you can find,
right?
What are we doing with the characters?
It's a Fast and the Furious type of situation where, like, the first Fast and Furious, dope as hell, right? Like, great movie. But as you get to like number 9, and they're talking about going to fucking space shit, you know what I'm saying, like
we jumped
I
the shark.
We're kind of running out of ideas here. Maybe we should try different things. Which they did try the spin off with Hobbs and Shaw, but even that was like you're just beating the dead horse.
It's a cash grab, dude,
yeah.
and the audience knows that because I watched that film and it was uninspired. It's like, okay, sure. these are two likable guys. They have good personalities, and it's like how they make these lazy comedy movies. Let's just turn on the camera and let them rip and see if we get anything good. That's not how you make a fucking movie.
That's the Seth Rogen technique.
Yeah, and that works when you have a good improv cast, yeah. Right? And you can work with them, and like Second City type people. When you have improv actors that can work on the fly like that. And even then, it's mixed results because those people don't know each other. It takes months to get that kind of chemistry and rhythm. Yeah,
friendship and that with Seth Rogen and his team, like he works with. Adam Sandler's a better example because Adam Sandler literally uses the same people in every fucking movie since day one.
Loyal guy,
where it's like,
great guy.
If you put him and David Spade in the movie together, you're gonna probably get some good shit because they just know each other that well. Exactly. You just throw The Rock and fucking Jason Statham in a movie.
Well, and that's the whole thing is like these studios, and that's the part that what really confuses me about the detachment because the average fan knows this, but yet the studios don't understand why these movies are losing money. Why they don't understand why Justice League bombed. It's like, bro, like you don't see what you built up. Like the people were on board. Yeah, it didn't make the money you wanted, but it made money.
For sure.
It made a shit ton of money, but you wanted Avengers money, but you didn't spend Avengers time.
That's true. They're talking about this Snyder cut too, and it's like they're saying that it's now a 4-episode fucking miniseries. And they're reshooting scenes too. It's like,
and there you go. Because when the base, come on, dude, the Batman franchise is $1 billion baby if you treat it right.
For sure.
And I think they only spent $50 million on reshoots.
For the Snyder cut?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you think
it's worth it, yeah.
If you think about what that movie's actually going to make because of the hype compared to what they've actually spent, $50 million is a low budget film by today's standards.
Yeah.
That's TV money at this point. So they're going to get back a couple $100 million.
For sure. I think they have a deal with HBO Max, and I'm pretty sure they just bought out they probably got like $250 mil, maybe $300 mil to do it, but it's. That's part of it too. Where like going back to like the whole indie film thing. One of my favorite directors of all time is Christopher Nolan, and the reason is not just because he's a good filmmaker, but because he's known for going under the budget.
Yeah.
So the studio bill, here's $150. He's like, I'm gonna shoot this for $1. Yep.
You
know what I'm saying? And then he gets it done, and it makes like fucking $800.
You know
what I'm saying? So, and I admire that. Where it's like even with this film, though, we're raising money and doing all this and that. I want to come in under the budget. If I can. Probably won't, but if we can, then that's dope because then the rest we're just sharing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We're all eating. And that's something that right now, especially with this whole shift, that I think we're going to be really good at in terms of being able to like reach, going back to what I'm saying with the whole niche thing, tapping into an audience who really appreciates what we're trying to do.
Well, when I look at, I get a lot of inspiration from Instagram and Facebook comedians and things like that. I've seen guys like Kev on stage. Who's the black kid? He's kind of a heavy set. He's funny as shit. I just see a lot of these black dudes. They were just making Facebook videos a couple years ago, but they were consistent, and that shit was funny, and they kept putting them out. And after a while, people eventually notice because you get a part of the algorithm.
For sure. And
then now I'm seeing. Seeing guys that were just, doing videos in their car talking about how, I did a show with Chris Rock last night. I got to meet Chappelle and shit. You know, these guys are making their dreams come true because they're putting in the labor and the work. And that's why I say it's not always about money. It's about the quality and the commitment to the craft. Because if the craft is good, people are going to respect it. And that's not always about money. And that's what's more important to me. You know, if you put out consistent material, you know, Jordan Peele, for example, it's consistent. His shit doesn't cost a lot of money, and he's making the studios bang. That's why he's killing it right now.
Jordan Peele's a great example because you can always tell that he had a vision. Even with the whole Key and Peele skits, like the better Key and Peele, like I have a love and hate relationship with those dudes. But when it comes to Key and Peele, like if you watch most of the skits that have like this horror tinge to it, or like this like weird kind of storyline, that's all Jordan Peele, right?
Yeah.
And now that he has his chance to like really like fucking flourish after Get Out, you're seeing all this really dope, unique content. Lovecraft Country being a good example where like he didn't write that, but he found the writers, he found that story, and was like, this is amazing, this needs to go out.
He was brilliant because he used the budget of that show to shoot the short films that he liked so he could get practice. That's all that show was, it's practice.
Basically, because I didn't even realize that until I started watching, because you know they put up like the Key and Peele clips on YouTube now.
Yeah.
And I watch them pretty much every day. And I watch them like, man, these are really just like mini Get Outs, mini Us's, mini whatever.
Yeah.
When you really look at like how they're created.
Like Negro Town,
style,
she was brilliant.
Yeah, like all these things that were like, oh man, these are like basically what Jordan Peele has been trying to do, but you know, he had to follow the like coonery of the Comedy Central engine and being the next Chappelle and shit.
And here's another thing that I thought was brilliant about Jordan Peele and what was so compelling about those skits. They used the same camera for all those skits, but the lighting and how he learned how to fuck with that lighting is what really made all those skits different in their own thing.
For sure.
You know, there was one skit with the rapper that was snitching on himself in the police station. Same camera, same outside camera when they were shooting Negro Town. It's like the white zombies that didn't want to fuck with black people. You know, it was the way they shot it and how they used the best one. When they went to the woods and it was Jordan Peele and he was playing like the old badass, they were like, "Oh, we don't really want you to come back." And he's like, "Nah, break my arm," you know. But even though they were using the same camera, that shit was movie quality because they whipped that lighting so properly.
Yeah, that's that practice and knowledge. A lot of people ask me, they're like, you know, like, how do I start making movies? And it's like, honestly, you just got to start shooting.
You got to start shooting.
But, you know, it's good to study film theory, lighting theory, you know, camera angles, things like that, because that's what makes your story more powerful. I went to film school for 4 years, studying this shit fucking every single day, and it's like burned into my head now. Now it's like I just want to get out there and start making some dope shit.
I went to film school for 2.5 years, and it was a 3-year program. But you know, I feel like I've learned more after film school than in, because I literally study film every day. Like I stay kept with like current events, new episodes of shit, like everything pop culture related I'm aware of. Everything that's happening with studios, all the shit that's happening with Patterson not getting weight. You know, like I'm aware of all of it, you know.
Right.
From the artistic level to the business level. And I study the moves of these major companies so I can understand the kind of moves I should take as a dude that's starting out. You know, it's like, okay, these guys got their money right, but they still don't gamble. You know, they bet on winning horses. And when you look at the production quality of major studios, that's what gets you your money. There has to be a consistent quality. Love or hate Warner Brothers and what they're doing now in our new generation, because I love Warner Brothers, but they're definitely a different company than they were in the 90s. But there's a quality to Warner Brothers films, and there's also a freedom of scripts. Warner Brothers, I think, makes more interesting in different movies than almost any other studio. Paramount is, you know, really big on tentpole films. Universal, you know, they're trying to do the big budget. You know, the Universal.
It's their bread and butter. You know, you have these films that are like
okay,
$200 million.
Joker, for example, I think only Warner Brothers would have put out. That's the only major studio that would have put out a film like that. But you got to think about it. Warner Brothers owned the original movies that movie was inspired by.
It's one of those things where they had to figure out something, because.
So can we get money again on Taxi Driver?
You sit here and you watch what Sony's doing with Spider-Man, right? Where they're trying to like, especially now, because I guess rumor has it that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are confirmed for the Spider-Man 3.
That's gonna be crazy.
And now DC, they announced that they're doing Flashpoint with
Michael Keaton.
Brings back all the Batmans and shit.
That's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like,
if you can pull it off,
if you could do it right. You might be bruh,
You got some shit, but are you just being greedy though?
That part. That's what I'm saying. Like,
you know,
you're over here trying to chase the Avengers. You're trying to chase Endgame because now Endgame is now the gold tier standard of
it is
how you do shit, right? Because now
Endgame was cinematic history.
Mm-hmm.
It's brilliant. Kevin Feige's a genius,
and honestly, that should have been Justice League.
Yeah,
Justice League should have been what Endgame was,
but they were chasing the pocket.
But they were chasing, and that was part of it too. Is like they were rushing it. Like I would have been just fine with them, with Justice League coming out now, right? With them like taking the time to build it, getting to that point. But what they did, they crammed all that shit into Batman vs Superman.
Yeah,
where it's like, all right, we gotta get there, so let's just do it now. Just make it movie 3 hours and just put it all in there.
It was so bloated, man. I remember when I saw Batman. I saw that shit in the theater on opening day. I got the luxury seats. I saw that shit like 3D glasses, all that shit.
Which Batman?
Batman vs Superman.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I was really excited about it, you know, and I told myself that after The Dark Knight Rises, I'm no longer a fan anymore. I'm a creator. You know, I felt that The Dark Knight Rises was the last movie I needed to watch as a fan. You know, as a kid, and you know, you go to see movies as a fan, and ever since then, I've never watched a movie as a fan after Third Batman. So there's always it doesn't mean I can't enjoy films as a fan. I just look at films two ways, man. Like I watch a film, if I like it, I'll watch a film as a fan the first time, and then the second time I'll rape that shit.
Right.
You know, and like, let me give you a great example. Django Unchained. When I first saw Django, I loved it. I thought that shit was great. I watched that shit again. I'm like, what the fuck?
Start breaking it down. Yeah.
Whoa. Wow. Like, whoa. You know, that was a lot. You know, I was not happy about that film when I watched it the second time. With Batman or Superman, I watched that movie, and I remember, like, I got off of work that night around 11:30. The movie, I think, started around 11:45, 12. It was right across the street at the Biltmore AMC, right? And so by the time this movie's over, dog, it's like 3:30 in the goddamn morning, dog. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole new day. And I remember walking out to the car, like, and all I could think was, what the fuck did I just see? And that same feeling was in my head for like weeks after I saw that movie. And I became obsessed with that film. You know, because the crazy thing about that film is just jointed, broken, has a lot going on. But if I got to recut that film,
there's
like,
a good movie in there.
There is.
Yeah,
there is. There's an amazing movie.
Yeah.
There's a dope ass Batman movie in there. And if you would have added some extra scenes and did a little bit more development, there's a great Superman movie in there. But it's just like, you know, it was a little bit bloated, and the runtime was way too long. And like you just said, that's what I really love about the streaming generation. That's a movie that should have been released like the Snyder Cut, where it's like, if you want to do all this, if you want to build up to the death of Superman and Doomsday, bro, you need to like 7 episodes of that shit.
And that's kind of what we're seeing, I think, with COVID hitting and like basically like the major film industry being shut the fuck down, unless you're Christopher Nolan. Then Disney just announced, like, I think a couple of days ago, that basically they're not really focusing on theater anymore. They're focusing on the streaming service.
Right.
And you have to remember that they had a whole MCU lineup with that What If series. They had the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show. They had the WandaVision. They had like 7 shows lined up.
The Nick Fury
show. Like all these things, like where it's like, man, like they get it. They understand that we need more longer content. Because I mean, Endgame was fucking 3 hours.
Yeah.
I love that movie, but it was 3 fucking hours.
Yeah.
And if that was like a mini series, like on Netflix, dog,
it would have been hot.
It would have been fire.
And it was 3 different movies. It was a goddamn super dramatic fucking movie in the beginning.
Yeah.
Then it turned into a goddamn heist film,
like time travel heist movie. Yeah.
And then it turned into a
super badass movie,
badass action superhero movie. And it was brilliant, but it's like, damn, dude, you know. And especially now with the COVID, ain't nobody sitting in the theater for 3 hours, dog. If you're smart.
No, I mean I saw Tenet in the theaters.
You saw it?
Yeah, it was dope. There was like 3 people in there. I felt bad.
You know, Tenet.
The movie's fire though.
I wanted to say that though, man. Like, I'm really proud of the director of that film,
Christopher Nolan. Man, he's the man. Dude.
But putting Denzel Washington's son in that role, that's like our first Black James Bond.
Yeah, going back, like circling back on this conversation. Yeah,
with an original story.
I think that he is one of the few, like him, Jonathan Majors, Michael B. Jordan, of course. I think that they're there, right? But what I want to see is them be more independent. Well, because the industry's collapsing right now.
Yeah.
Like right now, it's like, imagine Michael B. Jordan, who has his own thing, like Outlier Society, I think that's what it's called, his own company. Imagine he just started pumping out content from his own brand, not for the studio, like over his shoulder.
He would kill it. He already has the base.
Destroy it. Him and Ryan Coogler just team up, start knocking out shit.
And see, like I had Bill Duke's phone number. I told you about that the other night. And my whole thing is, I want to reconnect with the previous generations, you know, to make the shit. I would love to fucking get Fred Williamson one last time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For reals. I would love to hit up Bill Duke and get a cameo.
I mean, it'd be dope if we had like a Black Expendables, honestly.
Well, dude, the Five Bloods, did you see that?
I haven't yet. I know it's on the short list. I'm going to probably watch it like this week.
You need to watch it, dude.
Yeah.
You need to watch it. That movie, everything we're talking about, everything we're trying to do, Spike Lee did that in that movie, but it was his generation of cats.
Right.
You know, that was Black Expendables, but niggas died. You know what I'm saying? I like the movie where everybody lives because we get these sequels.
Right.
You know, I don't want to kill off my characters every movie. I like, okay, we got 6 Die Hard movies, dude.
True.
This dude is 75 years old, bro, jumping out of windows with his son and shit. Like, that's still believable. It's believable when he was fucking 32 with no shoes on and the wife beater. Now it's turned into a goddamn video game.
True.
And so, if they can do it, how come we're not doing it? I don't like the idea that
you can't think of a single Black actor that has a sequel series like that.
No, we have no Black franchises, dude.
Closest we got is Nick Fury.
Yeah, but that's in a white franchise.
Yeah, exactly.
Like let me think about this.
Like a Black franchise, action franchise that's Black led. We don't have one.
We don't have one.
I can't think of a single one.
We can't even get a Blood and Bone too.
I mean, that would have been Black Panther, I guess, but that's still under
the Marvel banner,
the engine.
You know, and that's not owned by us. And that's what I'm talking about. There was that whole controversy when Black Panther came out, and it was like, you know, the woke Black folks that are talking that shit. It's like, you guys are getting excited about this movie, but all that money, not to be anti-Semitic at all. These are just quotes. All that money is going to the Jews. That's going to other people. Disney, You're not related to Disney.
It's true.
Disney doesn't care about your community. Now, and here's another thing. When we get killed by the police and they give you that $12 million, why aren't you putting that back into the Black community to honor your kid? You know what I could do with $12 million for us? I could build a whole studio with $12 million. With all the gear that we have now, all we need is the rental space.
For sure.
12 million? Bro, I can make 12 full-length movies with 12 million.
For sure.
Because we got the connections here already. And we know everybody here. You're only a phone call away from this actor, that actor, this actor. And my whole philosophy, and I told you about this before, was taking the Lorne Michaels approach to this. Where, like Saturday Night Live, where you use, like, it's not the me show. For me, Black Fist was like, okay, I'm a character that's driving the story. But every episode, I'm showcasing new talent. I'm showcasing new inner city talent. The people that wouldn't get that job in LA, this is my city.
True.
We'll hire you here. We have our own pool of talent already here. We have people that have wanted to be actors and singers and dancers and whatever their entire lives. You just have to know how to find these people. And that collective of us working together, like how you were saying, that's really how easy it can be. But the problem with us and the truth of it, Black folks ain't gonna come until you build it first. I'm one of the few guys where I'm like, yo, I'm gonna build this shit with you from the ground up. I'll put in my money. I'll put in my time. I'll build this with you. That's a hard thing to find.
It is.
When you're already popping, motherfuckers know who you are. Everybody and their mama wants to work with you. Everybody and their mama wants to help out. But that's because it's already been established.
Yeah, that's the hard part about it. I mean, I talk about this all the time where, like, if I was J. Cole,
This would be easy.
It'd be a rap, right?
It'd be a rap.
I'm not J. Cole, but, you know, I still have people who support me and still want to see us win.
Right.
But in the grand scheme of things, it's like we have goals, and people want to see goals. You know what I'm saying? People want to see people win. So, like, I'm targeting, even with this film, I've been joining like a lot of like Black filmmaker forums, Black creators, Black creative graphic designers, things like that. Black creatives in general, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that's the audience.
Too.
Yeah, I think that's the audience that's really going to support this film the most because they're going to appreciate what the fuck we're trying to do.
Well, here's something that's a little controversial, and it's aside, a little bit aside from the point, which is something I've noticed because I'm in a lot of the I'm in a lot of the online black groups, black filmmakers, Arizona black filmmakers, all this stuff. I see whether it's local or pages that get 20,000, 80,000 members. I see a lot of infighting, and I do see a separation in the black community when it comes to sexuality. You have a lot of gay and lesbian brothers and sisters that are doing their thing, and then you have guys like me that are a little bit more old school, and we want to see black men be represented and see us be strong. And whenever you bring up the agenda that I kind of feel like, I don't want to make it personal, that I kind of see in Hollywood where black men are kind of effeminized. You don't see Bruce Willis in a dress. You don't see Tom Cruise in a dress, but they'll put us in a dress. So I don't even want to get into all that. That's a slippery slope right there. But what I'm saying is that I feel that as a collective, to be successful, we need to be all inclusive and get over that shit.
No, I agree. I think that
we all need representation, dude.
It's a dicey topic because for me,
I try to stay away from it.
Well, I mean, I think about. All right, have you ever seen the show Pose?
Pose
with Billy Porter.
Yeah, I don't really fuck with Billy Porter.
Okay, so Pose is fucking fantastic. I watched the show, I just watched it on the whim because I heard about Billy Porter winning the award.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let me see what this show's about. Watch the whole thing. Fucking fantastic show. Brilliant.
Yeah.
With that said, and this is no knock to the gay community or the gay agenda, I do think, and I always believe that the industry has the ability to quote unquote pull the trigger on somebody.
Yeah.
And they have incentive to do that. Yes. We're just we're going to pull the trigger on this person so they can do whatever.
Right.
They pulled the trigger on Billy Porter.
They really did.
And the reason that they did that was because they were trying to basically do what they're doing now with Black Lives Matter, where they're riding that sweet black clout. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Don't forget that Moonlight won the fucking Oscar for Best Film. So they're targeting black gays, right?
Yeah.
Not to say that show itself is not great in itself, but they saw that as an opportunity to really tap into this audience that they really don't give a fuck about.
Right.
Then that's really fucks me up. When I see Billy Porter, I fuck with him as a person, but it's at the same time, bro, they're kind of
and
they're marionettes. You know what I'm saying? He's kind of a puppet.
You know what? And that's why I say, like I said before, it's not that I don't fuck with Billy Porter. I'm very aware of all he does. I watch a lot of his stuff.
I think he's dope as fuck.
I saw exclusive demo. No, I think he's great. The chick that played the aunt on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
The first one?
Yeah. He's like the black male version of her. Just
for sure, very
vibrant spirit,
for sure,
and I respect that as an artist. My problem is personally when, for one, he's married to a white man, and when I kind of felt some type of way, I was watching an event. And he's wearing this tuxedo gown, standing next to his white man, and the white man was wearing a suit and he's wearing the gown. And I'm like, that didn't sit right with me because I'm like, okay, so there's tops and bottoms. I understand all that. But, like you said, they pull the trigger on them. And it's like, you'll celebrate black homosexuality. We can give it awards. We can make TV shows. But strong black men that are good fathers that like women, we're demonized.
Yeah, and I don't want to keep this conversation going on forever.
Yeah, we can change that subject.
But talking about that, I think, because Lovecraft Country, right? Love that show, right?
That feels like it's a change in the...
But
there's some shit with
it
that
was a stab in the heart when that scene with Michael Williams and they had that whole thing with that whole narrative.
Yeah, the breakfast scene and all that, or when he went to the club and shit.
Well, he hooked up with that dude.
Yeah,
pounding dude's ass and all that shit.
That was out of nowhere too.
For me, like I said, I'm not homophobic. I don't really care about that, honestly. If you want to tell these stories, it's fine. But it felt so fucking forced.
And I think about a pattern. It's like, okay, Omar, right? Omar was a crazy gangster, but he was gay. That was part of that story. And there's a lot of undercover gangster dudes that are gay in the hood. Right. It's not like it was an abstract notion.
Right.
And the show was brilliant. But when I see a pattern, it's like, okay, this dude is swole. He's looking amazing at his age. And we're doing this again. Is there an agenda here? Why does this, And on top of that, I didn't really feel it. I mean, it made Well, actually, when it comes to the story and the damn dynamic with his son, it made a lot of sense. But the graphic nature of it, I'm like, yo, this scene is more graphic than the scene when the dude's with the
It
chick.
was pretty hardcore. I think that's the part that bothered me the most, where they could have told that story without having like pounded his ass for 3 minutes, right?
Yeah, dude.
So like, I'm not sure if you played the new Last of Us 2.
Mm.
So there's a sex scene in there,
Yeah.
right? Felt the same type of way, where it's
Yeah.
like, I'm playing this game, I'm enjoying myself, and all of a sudden I got these digital titties in my face.
Yeah.
And it's like, why, like, and for me, it's like kind of sexuality as a whole in media, where it's like, if it's part of the story and it tells something that makes the story beautiful and enhances it,
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
Right.
But for just over here, just like plowing dudes in the butt, and we got digital titties flopping around. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what were we really trying to do?
Well, it's like, to me, it's like, it's gratuitous, like I feel the same way about violence, I don't watch violent movies for the sake of watching the violence. If it's done well and the story's compelling, like The Raid, let's go back to The Raid. That shit is brutal. That's my shit. When I think of action films and what I'm studying as a choreographer, The Raid is like the number one on the spot. It's the hottest action movie in the last decade.
For sure.
And the sequel was even better. But was it the violence that made it dope? No. It was a goddamn pre-production, the choreography, the actual execution of all that shit is brilliant.
Compelling storytelling.
And it's a driving narrative. It's believable. All this shit.
And like I said, I'm not knocking that narrative because maybe it's going somewhere, right? Because like there's still one more episode left. I haven't watched the last episode, but maybe it's going somewhere. Maybe it's going to be very important to the story in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be.
I don't see it yet.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, so why did you have to go that deep into it?
Okay, so he has issues with his dad. His dad used to beat his ass because his dad was gay and he was insecure about his own masculinity. You could just tell me that. I can understand that. I can follow along. So, the whole thing, show, don't tell. When it's that gratuitous, I wonder, okay, is there an agenda here? Like, why are we watching this? Because I'm looking at these brilliant choreographed fight scenes with the African when she became a warrior. She's in space. I'm like, wow, they're spending this money right.
Right.
This is amazing. And then it's like, out of nowhere, bargain basement gay sex scene.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it doesn't really match with everything else I'm watching.
You just think about the why behind it.
Well, that to me, the whole thing, and I don't want to speak on the conspiracies or agendas and all that. It just goes back to my point. I think that we all deserve representation and we all need fair representation. And I don't think that a gay person is represented just because of how they have sex. A gay person is represented by the person and character they are. I don't even have to know you're gay.
Yeah.
Is the movie dope?
Exactly.
Is the guy likable or is he a bad guy?
Yeah.
I don't need to see what you fuck or how you like to fuck to know who you are as a character.
Or I think about the show.
You don't see Batman get laid?
I think about the show Master of None. And there's the episode Thanksgiving where what's her face's character? I can't think of her name right now. The black chick in that show. She's gay. And they don't talk about really the whole show, but in this episode, she brings home her gay lover for Thanksgiving, right? And that's a situation where like the story, the narrative, her being gay, is very important to the fucking story.
Yeah, like guess who's coming to dinner?
Right.
That's what the shit's about.
Right. But otherwise, like everywhere else of the story, there's like hints that she's gay and things like that. She might hit on a chick or something like that, but they're not making it something where it's like overly sexual.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing I have like the issue like SpongeBob being gay. Or like the sexual identity of whatever, like we don't give a fuck. It doesn't matter.
My biggest thing, obviously, I'm a pastime liberal and I'm an emotional conservative. And one thing that I think is conservative about me that I do agree on, I don't think that sexuality should be pushed on children, put in children's material. Growing up in the 80s, yeah, X-Men, everybody on the X-Men had big ass titties. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody was ripped. Everybody had ridiculous importance. He-Man, looking back on He-Man, wow.
Yeah.
No wonder there's a lot of closet dudes nowadays, man.
Shit like a tornado.
Yeah, we were raised on dysmorphic body images, man. Even the action movies we watch. Van Damme, you're not going to look like Van Damme. Sorry. I don't care how much you want to work out. Shit ain't going to happen, dude. He owned a gym. You know what I'm saying? Unless you got that nigga's life. Or Arnold Schwarzenegger. Mr. Olympia, 7 years in a row. You're not going to look like that dude anytime soon, dude. You're not. But when you grow up with these images, you're like, well, this is how I should look. This is how I should be. And women they have it even worse than men do. And so when I think about this was kind of coded in our entertainment in the 80s. But now in 2020, I'm looking at a movie like Cuties. And this shit is getting defended online. And I'm like, this is getting weird.
Yeah, Cuties is a tough one because for me, it's Homegirl's real story. But I don't know. I don't think it was her fault for telling the story. That was her own story. It's all on Netflix and how they spun that shit.
Bro, I've seen clips of the movie. I can't sit through it. I can't. I just can't.
It's wild. I haven't watched it.
I know all about it. I know the story. I've heard the movie described, and I've seen clips, and I can my issue with the movie. It's not the story. It's not. The story is compelling. The story actually happens.
Right.
And
it's how you tell the story.
It's the camera work, bro. It's the camera.
Yeah, because they're like all up on her ass.
Dude, it's And there's a fine line between examination and exploitation.
Right.
And I think that's what we were talking about earlier with that sex scene. There's a fine line between examining your characters and exploiting this shit for gratuity.
Basically. I mean, the movie won awards and shit. Got its Netflix deal. Homegirl, I'm sure she's happy about it, but it's going back to it. There's the idea of the agenda, and I think about these fucking kids. Is what it comes down to.
I do. You have a son. I have the pain of not being a father, and I probably never will be. It's a very painful thing, but that's also what inspires me to create images that made me feel how I felt when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I got to be a kid. I didn't think about sex. I didn't think about all that shit. I thought about being a great martial artist. I thought about being a filmmaker.
Right.
I saw Malcolm X when I was 8 years old, and that's the moment I knew I wanted to be a filmmaker. Right during the credits, I'm like, this is what I want to do. I knew that at 8. And so that sense of inspiration without being misguided or being confused, because at the end of the day, these kids can't understand all this shit, dude. Like I said, it goes back to being a 14-year-old, and we're talking about Breonna Taylor or Trayvon Martin. You can't comprehend how this modern world feels to these kids at your age.
It's true.
We're not that young anymore. I think in my mid-20s was that last connect to being really hip. Now we're becoming like the old heads, and we've been here longer. And so it's really up to us to guide people through this shit at this point as creators.
We're definitely living in different times, and it's a TikTok generation and Instagram. This is different, and I get that. I'm saying, so I can never really try to say I understand these fucking kids.
Well, I feel the power as a creator, and what took me years to understand, and what Puff Daddy understands, what Jay-Z understands. Nigga, if you're a creator, you decide what's dope. You create what's dope.
Yeah. And
it takes a lot of confidence, takes a lot of hard work. But when you have ownership of that, it ain't about the kind of times we're in. It's about what you're doing with them.
Exactly.
And that's what we need more than anything right now is we need hope. We need hot shit. We need inspiration. We need love. We need community. We need some fucking guidance. But more than anything, we need to listen to each other. We need to give a fuck about each other again. Because everything in the world is trying to pit us against each other, pit us against ourselves, keep us afraid. That's not what this shit's all about. Being an action hero is about not being afraid of shit. It's about making the shit happen and winning the day, being the hero. And we all need heroes right now. All of us needs to be a hero. You're either a hero to somebody or you're a villain to somebody right now. And you need to pick.
Choose a side. That's actually a good place for us to stop this podcast because we're at that hour.
Yeah.
But with that said,
great conversation.
This is the first episode of Impossible Colors. We'll be back again with more episodes. Check us out at, I don't know, we have the website and all that shit, but there's going to be websites. But check out the Bond, the trailer. It's out.
Go to the GoFundMe. Please donate.
Yeah, drop some dollars.
We could use it.
I'm trying to make movies. As you can hear, we're very passionate about this shit. So, Yeah, so Ashe, let people know where they can find you and all that.
Yeah, you can find me at Bridges _Ashe at Instagram. You can find me at Ashe Osaki at Facebook and Ashe Bridges, Ashe with an E on Facebook. And you can also find me at Ashe Osaki on YouTube. So there's a lot of different ways to reach me.
Yeah, we'll drop the links in the description. We're probably going to throw this up on all the various podcast channels. This will probably be my YouTube page and shit. So, if you want to learn more about Ashe, who's going to be on every single episode, so you're going to learn a lot about him over the next couple of however many episodes we do. Follow us and do all that shit. I'm Jaron Ikner. You guys already know who the fuck I am. Just go to my website, jaronikner.com. All the information's there. You know who the fuck I bees. But yeah, thanks for listening. Impossible Colors, The Bond, Black Fist, all the other shit we got coming out. Holla. Peace.